Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
And a good morning. Tomorrow, September 17th. Tomorrow is Constitution Day. I hope all of us realize how fortunate we are to live right here in the greatest country on the face of the earth, the United States of America. Patriots, call in with our Pledge of Allegiance. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America on this Monday. And the Pledge of Allegiance coming up. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And a good morning to you and yours. I'm Zeb Bell on Zeb at the Ranch for this Monday, September 16th. Good morning and welcome to our program brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with a great big, really huge fall tire sale going on right now. And some of our great advertisers, including Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Along with Greystone Crossing Independent Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Heyburn, seniors living the good life with friends. I hope we've got a Pledge of Allegiance patriot. Good morning, you're on the air.
Well, good morning, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Attaboy, Wheels, thank you. And right now, before we go any further, let's find out if we're going to have any changes to the weather. And the weather brought to you by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 west of Heyburn on the Burley-Paul Highway. You can't miss them. And by golly, they've got the best tools and equipment for you to finish any kind of a construction project, whatever. I mean, long-term, short-term usage of the tools, they've got it. Call Roger and the crew at 678-3122. K&R Rental in Heyburn. And right now, here's Gino with the weather.
Sunshine for today, rain showers for tonight. Here's look at your weather forecast. We are expecting mostly sunny skies with a high near 80. Going to be a little bit breezy out there, not too bad tonight. Scattered rain showers and thunderstorms between about 7 o'clock at night and 1 o'clock in the morning. And we do have a chance of some thunderstorms there as well, mostly cloudy skies. And winds are going to be picking up gusts as high as 30 miles an hour. We are expecting a low of 45 for tomorrow, sunny and breezy, cooling down to about 64. Then by Wednesday, mostly sunny skies and 71. That's look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Wow. A little unsettled right now for the next couple of days. Hey, brought to you by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 west of Heyburn. Again, right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. You can't miss them. Roger and the crew get there early in the morning. They be opening the doors at 7 o'clock and serve you. So please give them a call if you're not sure what you need. They'll help you. 678-3122. K&R Rental. I want to say a big thank you in just a minute, so stand by for that, to some wonderful people. And first and foremost, I want to mention also Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. I absolutely urge you Stop in and work with the best and let them help you. And that's, of course, Darrow's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Kevin, Cindy had a nice talk with Kevin the other day. And don't forget, once you've been up hunting, don't just throw that sleeping bag and all that stuff in the closet and wait till next year. Get rid of the Cheetos and everything else. Have them cleaned. Have them cleaned at Darrow's Cleaners. 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley, serving you. I want to say thank you to an extremely nice lady. She has been such a good friend of ours for so long, and she's been a lunch buncher since the get-go, and that's Lorna Arbogast. Lorna stopped by the other night, and she knows that my wife likes to make zucchini bread, and Deanne makes the best zucchini bread anywhere, anytime, and brought us by a bunch of zucchini. So, Lorna, thank you very much for what you do. And I want to say a big thank you and shout out to Morris Greenwell. Morris sent me a picture the other day on my phone, outstanding and just so patriotic, and Morris was thinking of us, and I just want to give him a great big shout out this morning. Thank you very much. Want to remind you, too, about Ramsey Heating and Electric, and they're located at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley with all, underline that word, all, your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. They got it all. And if you have questions, all you've got to do is just give them a call at 678-0459. They open the doors at 7:30 in the morning to 5, Monday through Friday. They have what you need, and a lot of times when you call, they can have it waiting right there on the counter if it's a small order, right there waiting for you to save time. Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. I had a call over the weekend, and they said, when's Lunch Bunch? It's going to be the 26th, next Thursday. Not this Thursday, but next Thursday, the 26th, at Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. And they also have another location if you're in Twin Falls at 291 Poline Road. Absolutely excellent food, great menu choices. I mean, you've got to go in and try those strawberry crepes for breakfast with the hash browns and the eggs and everything. Ooh, it's good. And lunch and dinner and desserts, everything with great people serving you at America's Diner. Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley, and they are the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch next Thursday on the 26th. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. I am really upset this morning.
Uh-oh.
Because the price of crude in 1 hour went up over $6 a barrel.
Yeah.
Now, here in the United States, especially in the western part of the United States, we do not ship any oil to Europe or to the other countries. So why are they going to raise the price of everything? And that's exactly what they're going to do. They predict 10 to 25 cents a gallon increase. That is unreal.
Yeah, but Keith, wait a minute. You know as well as I do, it's a game. It's a great big game of Monopoly. And the Monopoly board is always tilted in favor of the big oil, and also anything to do with government controls in various countries, or it's all going to be against the American consumer. We may have had a little respite of the extremely high prices, but we're going to go back up. We're going to go back up and pay more. You know it. It's happened before many, many times. This is not a new game that we're playing.
Well, I hate to say that you are absolutely right, but the price of diesel is going to go out of
control. Oh, it makes me so fed up. The way I almost caught him. You almost got me to say something on the air I didn't want to say. But I'll tell you what, it makes me...
You're going to be mad too.
Well, I am mad because I travel a lot during the week, more so than most people, and I fill up my outfit maybe as much as 3 and 4 times a week or more. And boy, the increases take away from money that I could spend elsewhere. And people don't realize that with the oil and diesel and gas prices going up, it infringes upon the right of people to go out and spend money for their kids, their family, etc., share what they have in the economy locally. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Yes, you've made me mad.
Okay, I'm going to make you madder now, because raising the price of diesel way up, how do we get things moved across the United States?
Oh, absolutely.
By trucks.
Absolutely.
And guess what it's going to do to the grocery price?
Absolutely. It's so retroactive, and it absolutely has a harbinger of evil for everything that we buy. Trucking costs go up. Everything is on a stepladder where the next rung it's going to be up here. Then they're going to go the next rung, and it's going to increase prices over here. It's absolutely ridiculous, and I'm sick. I'm almost sick of fighting this on the radio, because I'll use just 2 words, and you can dispute this if you want to, but oil and the pricing of oil and gas and diesel at the pumps is, quote, a ripoff.
Indeed it is. And October is the time they normally shut down the refineries for repairs.
Yep.
Zeb, we cannot find one person that we can blame for this. It's always somebody else's fault.
Yeah. You're on a subject right there this morning that when it comes to the price of fuel at the pumps, and wow. And then they wonder why people are not spending money on various and sundry other items, maybe new shoes for the kids, or maybe going to the further extreme of, oh, how dare they buy a brand new television set for their family, or anything else. Because if the money's going in the tank, literally, they can't afford those other things.
Yeah, and the Democrats are licking their chops now because this is going to make it a tough deal for Trump.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, Keith, thank you. You hit us.
It's dim. It's Democrats.
Yeah.
Because they can't see the light.
I can't argue your point, my friend, because I agree with you. And it's another frustration of the many frustrations that we're going through in this country. Keith, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. God bless.
I'm going to try.
All right, buddy. Thanks. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Wheels, old buddy, old pal. If you could just maybe bump up what I get through my headsets, not what's on the air, but what I get through my headsets, just a little skosh, I'd appreciate it. Ark Animal Hospital at 750 21st Street near Connection Credit Union in Heyburn. And Dr. Bill and the entire crew, they really, really are concerned about the health of your animals. And they want everything to be healthy, whether you got little bitty kitty cat or puppy dogs or whatever. Don't forget, there's been some cases of pyro, and that's a very deadly puppy disease. Be sure and get your fall vaccinations on your animals. Whether large or small animals, they serve them all, take care of them all at Ark Animal Hospital, 750 21st Street, near Connection Credit Union in Heyburn. The number to call, 678-1177, where they have the warm hearts for the cold noses. Yes, they do. Also, while I have just a moment, I want to remind everybody, too, about Dino's Septic Service. Yes, sirree, Bobby. They do the job that you and I don't want to do. Now, I've said this so many times, but it really bears repeating. You don't want to be standing out there pumping a septic tank. Oh, no. Or liquid waste removal, or sewer and sink drain lines clean. All of this and so much more. Backhoe services, septic tanks and drain fields installed. Please call Dino's Septic Service at 436-6526 or 678-1638. I guarantee you fast, fair, friendly service. These people are good. They've worked for me. Let them work for you. Dino's Septic Service, with a big truck that says smells cargo on the way. Little by little, step by step, and this isn't an Abbott and Costello routine, the Democrats are implementing a Second Amendment stoppage. Now, you might say, well, no, we've still got our Second Amendment. It's in the Constitution. Tomorrow's Constitution Day, and we're all going to honor the world's greatest Constitution. But these people are chipping away from our Constitution what it really means. Their words, and they're getting major companies to bend their way. Outlets for gun purchases at stores. Many stores are cringing now because of what the left might say or do to them. There is a fear factor, a blackball factor, if you will. So a lot of companies, a lot of stores, merchandising, have stopped selling guns, or at least some guns. And many more are cutting back or stopping the sales of ammunition. They are afraid of the left. They don't care about the Second Amendment. They're more afraid of the twits like Beto O'Rourke, Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, and yes, even now, more pronounced, Joe Biden. They're afraid. They're afraid. Beto O'Rourke, a lot of people said he made a fool out of himself at the debates last Thursday night. I would concur that he did make a fool out of himself, but he also created a firestorm when, and I'm not going to use all of his verbiage on the air because I'm not going to give him any credence whatsoever, but he said, yes, we are going to come and get your guns. That opened up a Pandora's box for the Democrats. Are they going to send out their support in favor of him? Are they going to lend support for his comments? And even Joe Biden came out and questioned whether or not the Heller, the ruling that happened through the Supreme Court, giving absolute right for citizens to have and bear arms, was right. He's questioning that. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Bell. You know, on the U.S. Constitution, the Rupert Veteran Memorial handed out just under 1,000 U.S. Constitution books to all seniors in Mendocino school district. And it's for them to keep, and hopefully their parents and everybody else will pick it up and read it.
Well, I certainly hope so too, George, but picking it up and reading it is one thing. You can pick up a comic book and read it, but adhering to it, respecting it, loving it and this country, those are different things when it comes to our Constitution and our values.
That takes self-pride and being teached.
Well, there's no question about it. And by the way, now that I've got you on the air, quickly before I take another call, I wrote about you and David Fairchild, Senator Kelly Anthon, and others in my blog this last Saturday. Kudos to you. And I mean this from bottom of my heart, for what you have done for trying to re-stimulate American patriotism. George Mass, I salute you as a friend because you've done a tremendous job.
Thank you, Jeb. But it took you, the community, Lieutenant Governor was down. It took a group of people to make this happen, and the feedback has been astronomical, and it's on the agenda for next year.
I appreciate it, and anything we can do, we certainly will. George, thank you very much for your comments this morning.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, sir. That was an excellent event over in the Rupert Square on Friday, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, probably more, but there were over 400 Minidoka County school fifth graders there. And all the schools should have been there. I don't care what county, what area. I mean, they should have been there and been represented. It was absolutely excellent. I'm going to make my point right now. Caller, please stay with me on the line a minute. You know, I can't understand why in the school systems, anywhere, everywhere, there's a moronic push to celebrate Earth Day, but yet the same respect is not given to our patriotism for our Constitution, our flag, and our country. Why? Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Morning, Zeb. Talking about confiscation of personal firearms, that really scared me to the fact of who does Beto O'Rourke think he's going to get to do it? Is it going to be the local sheriff's department, the Army, or what? And I can tell you right now, it won't be any of them. It'll be the UN. You do not want that mess on our soil at all.
Well, the inference of Ilhan Omar and others saying that they would rather have the United Nations take control of our borders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I mean that ilk of the squad, if you will, have all come out with these dumb, and they are, statements. But, you know, I see the handwriting on the wall, Riley. I really do. I see people in fear for their business, their reputations, etc., if they go up against the left and they say, we support the Second Amendment. And I'm seeing that they're backing off and they're saying, oh, I'm going to go hide in the corner. I'm not going to buck the system. I'm not going to take on all those liberal left Democrats. And the fear factor in this country is winning.
Well, to a point they are, but is like Sean Hannity was bringing out a while back, for all those who cower from the left, and all those who ban firearms like Walmart did and whatever else, there's always going to be a conservative group somewhere along the line to pick up that slack. You can buy things online until I can't remember who it was. They made it illegal, so you can't buy firearms online anymore. Or you still get ammunition, But there's always be someone to come through.
Yeah.
My worry is them trying to get the UN inside our borders on our soil.
Absolutely.
And I don't mean the UN convention in New York. I'm talking about the guys in the blue helmet.
Yep.
They don't give a crap about one thing or another. They have no respect for anything. I've seen in countries where they're at, and it's a bad deal. You do not want them here.
I couldn't agree more, and if that happens, Katie, bar the door, and I mean that. Riley, I got to run and do a commercial, but I always appreciate your good words. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. A couple of things, and then I'll take some more calls, but first of all, I want to remind you the Purple Shovel Market, an outdoor market, is located with Nature Nursery at 120 East Highway 81 in Burley, right across from the Burley Golf Course. And Saturday, September 21st, they're going to be having a big doings. They're going to have antiques and crafts, and they're going to have food vendors and all kinds of unique finds. I urge you to be there from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Purple Shovel Market. I love that name. An outdoor market with the Nature Nursery at 120 East Highway 81 in Burley on September 21st, Saturday, September 21st. Don't miss it. Also, real quick, in just a moment, we're going to give away some cookies. Do I have another call waiting over their wheels? I'm sorry, I forgot.
No, you're all right.
All right, buddy. Let's give away the cookies real quick. And, of course, our cookies sponsored by and donated by Sophie's Chatterbox at 530 East Street on the beautiful square in Rupert. Boy, I love that square. I love that activity over there. Sophie's Chatterbox, what a great restaurant. What a phenomenal bakery. And if you're the lucky winner of the dozen cookies, go on in there. Call them first. Let them know when you're coming by for your cookies. You're going to love them. Sophie's Chatterbox. Here is the question for today, and you can win the cookies. Name the actor that played Luke on the television series The Real McCoys, and then later also starred in the Rambo movies. Name the actor that played Luke on The Real McCoys and later starred in the Rambo movies. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call, please, and you might be the lucky winner of those cookies. While I'm waiting for your call, I quickly also want to remind you about our friends at Berry Equipment and Rental. We have a call coming in. I'll tell you what, I'll take the call first, and then I'll talk about Berry Equipment. Stand by. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
It's Richard Crennan.
You're really, really, really close on the name, but you got a letter added. You want to think about how you said it?
Richard Crennan?
I thought you'd take the end off of that name. You did good. Who is this?
Brandon Clegg.
Brandon Clegg, is that right?
That's right.
Well, you call over to Sophie's and tell them when you're going to be there for your cookies, and it sounds like you got a wee one in the house. Do they like cookies?
They love doggy treats.
Is that a dog?
That's a dog.
It sounds like a little baby right there. What kind of a dog have you got?
West Highland Terrier.
Oh, my. Okay, well, Brandon, congratulations. It was Richard Crenna. You are right. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
All right, sir. Thank you. You know, he was an interesting actor. And one thing, I cannot remember the name of the movie, and I need your help on this out there. But Richard Crenna, put a movie together. I think he was one of the co-producers, and he starred in it, to where the lead character and his grandson rode all the way, I believe it was from California, Colorado, all the way from Colorado to California on the West Coast because he wanted to see the ocean one last time. And they rode a horseback. And his grandson was one of those smart-mouthed teenagers that absolutely knew everything and was going to tell everybody everything. And by the end of the ride, that young boy turned into a young man. And it was really a moving, emotional movie. And Richard Crenna played the lead of that grandfather. I cannot, for the life of me, remember the name of that movie. Help me on that. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget Berry Equipment and Rental, the best sales, service, and parts. Now, if you want to lease equipment, great leasing programs. You want to buy the equipment, great financing programs. They've got 3 locations, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley with a big sandbox out behind so they can teach you how to run the equipment. 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin with Eli, and the Nampa location. I urge you, for all the equipment you need for lifting and digging and pushing and carrying and grading and leveling, they got it all at Berry Equipment and Rental. Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. You stop in and see them today. Wow. Another news note here this morning. This is unbelievable. Wild-haired Bernie Sanders is at it again, giving away everything free. Now he comes out over the weekend and says, why, we should cancel all the money debt that Puerto Rico owes us in the billions, with a B. In the billions. Yeah, we should just wipe it off the books, let the taxpayers pick up the tab. Let's do a little running account here of all the free stuff going on. Medicare for all. Medical debt excused and forgiven for families that, they just can't afford it. And school debt. Well, you wanted to go to college and you ran up a bunch of debt. You majored in basket weaving, but you can't afford to pay your bill. The government will pick up the tab. Well, meaning the taxpayers. Free, free, free. And when I listened to this guy the other night and other of these dim-witted Dems standing behind their podiums, at first you want to laugh. But then you realize how solemn this really is if one of those kooks gets elected as president. I mean, everything coming back onto the American taxpayer. They were talking about not billions, They were talking about trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in debt. But, yeah, that's all right. It's a good investment. And the American taxpayer can pick up the tab. I don't know how. The other night, honestly, I never heard one, and you've heard this maybe said by other people in the news or on other talk shows, be that as it may, but not one single word on last Thursday's night. Not one single word was given by any of those so-called Democratic candidates for president about our economy. Nothing. They didn't talk anything that would bring Trump and positiveness as to what's going on in our economy. Oh, they went into everything else. Oh, yeah, to be sure, they covered everything else. Beto making a rant and rave about taking your guns, and then Medicare for all, and they went on and on and on. But nothing about the economy. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, it's astonishing to me that people at voting age have not or understand in some places that there is no such thing as a free lunch. If people will get the expression, there is nothing free in this world. Nothing. Somebody somewhere along the line has got to pay for it. And eventually, when the people who are paying for everything run out of money or run out of resources, then you're starting to give up your freedom. And there's nothing free, and it's really frustrating for me to hear a supposed president-elect wanting to give everything free. It's really disheartening.
I wouldn't say it's disheartening. I would say it's totally depressing that they could, A, be this dumb, and B, a lot of the American public is buying into their garbage.
Well, it is depressing. Like you and I both, a lot of people in this area, we get up early in the morning and we work hard till sometimes well after the sun goes down, and we work really hard for what we can have and earn it. And then we have politicians just ready to give away what we've earned to somebody who's just too damn lazy to get up and work.
I couldn't have said it better.
That's not how it should work.
I could not have said it better. Riley, that's an excellent, and I've railed on this for a long time on my program, that there is nothing free. There's always got to be somebody on the end that's ready to bite that worm that's on the hook, and once they're on the hook, there's going to be a lot of money taken out of their pocket, and that's the problem in society today. That little word free with the Bernie Sanders and the Kamala Harrises and others. Riley, thank you again. God bless you, man, for your call. Appreciate it. Good young man right there. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. There were a lot of lies and, let's say, misstatements on the debate stage last Thursday night. Did you catch, and I hope you did, I hope the Democrats are listening out there this morning, even though they despise me, but Joe Biden not only was flustered and talking about phonographs and records and everything, I mean, he just got into another land, another time, another planet there for a while, but he also lied about the cages. I hate that word, cages. Down on the border to keep and house many of those illegal aliens until they find out what and how they're going to work with them or whether they can qualify for asylum or not. And he blamed Trump, for those cases. Let's back up a little bit, Joe Biden. It was the Obama administration that had all of this put together on the borders and started this in their detainment centers. Don't go blaming the Trump administration, thinking that the American public is just going to let you slide by first base and go to second. Joel, that was a lie. That was an absolute lie. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 927-4587. Hey, by the way, let your house welcome you home with the perfect temperature. The iComfort Wi-Fi thermostat from Lennox, featuring remote control access so you can adjust your home's temperature from anywhere, honestly. This is really nice. And Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox offering up to $1,600 in rebates on a new home comfort system. Call Ramsey Heating and Electric today at 678-0459 or visit them online at ramseysonline.com. Terms and conditions apply. See the dealer for details. All right, give me a call, please. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to go back just for a moment, and I want to give a lot of credit to the event that I was talking about that occurred in Rupert at 1 o'clock last Friday afternoon. My wife and I got there about noon, and the square was just chock full of students, fifth graders, over 400, along with their teachers and other visiting personnel. I mean, there was probably a good 500 people plus on that square. And learning about flag appreciation and patriotism. I was overwhelmed. I want to say this, caller, stand by. I was overwhelmed, and my wife and I both noticed all of these young people, these fifth graders, about 10, 11 years old, how polite they were, how courteous they were, all from the Minidoka County schools, fifth graders. And one thing comes to mind, and I will not forget this. We always say the young people, you know, this, and the young people that, and they've got all their shortcomings. One young boy went over to a trash receptacle and was trying to open the lid, holding on to the trash that he had from eating the hot dog and the chips and everything else. And it slipped out of his hand when he tried to open the lid, and trash kind of went underneath the cook shack trailer. It went underneath the garbage container. It was kind of laying all over. Now, a lot of kids today would just turn their back and walk away. This young man didn't look around or anything. He just got down on his belly and picked up the trash that had gone under the trash container. Then he walked around and went under the trailer and picked up the rest of that garbage and put it back in the container. I'm proud of those kids. They were great. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. You know, nothing gets done if you try to go it alone. Right now, the Democratic Party is acting like a bunch of bullies. If the parents got together and started raising hell, you would find how quick the bully will back off.
Well, I agree with you.
If you try to do something on your own, you're going to get walked all over. Don't be disorganized. If I had kids in school, Mary and I would get together and we'd get as many people as possible and start raising hell. And that's what the people have to do. Otherwise, these schools are going to spend all the time they have brainwashing these young kids to get their way 30, 40 years down the road.
Yeah, but Tony, wait, stop right there. I wish that you could have been with me as I emceed that event Friday, and it would have given you a ray of hope. There were over 400 kids sitting in kind of an amphitheater seating as we talked about patriotism and we talked about flag appreciation and we talked about retiring our flag in the proper manner and means. And those kids at 10 years of old, you know, they can fidget and they can fuss and they can whisper. Not one of them. Not one of them. They were all in an awestruck mode of paying attention, along with their teachers, to real patriotism. And if anything happened to me that day, it was a feeling of maybe we've got some great young kids coming up in the future.
Well, a lot of this comes from homes where the kids are treated well. They go to church on Sundays. The parents are making sure that the children grow up with the proper manners, But you got a lot of areas in the big cities especially where this isn't happening.
Oh, I agree with you. But what it told me is that Minidoka County Schools, and I hope I say this man's name right. If I'm wrong, I'm going to be so embarrassed. I think his Superintendent Cox made the allowance to let these fifth graders out of school for that period of time for this flag appreciation. And every single county, every single school should have been there and be represented. This was an outstanding event. We had Lieutenant Governor McEachin there, and I absolutely applaud George Mass and David Fairchild and Senator Kelly Anthon and the kids and their teachers. They were outstanding.
Well, the state of Idaho, in my opinion, I call it the free state of Idaho, they still have the pioneer spirit. And I really mean that because I know the difference between living in the cities and living here.
I agree with you, and you and I have both talked about this a long, long time on this radio program, that inner city problems and the contempt for the United States of America is growing, very unfortunately. But when I saw this on Friday, it gave me hope that we have got some great young people growing up, coming into our society, and they really held with great reverence what was being done on flag appreciation and patriotism. Thank you, Tony. I love you. Thank you so much.
That movie, Red Skies of Montana, was that it?
No.
Richard Crenna?
No. Well, you know what? I'm not sure, but I'll have to. Now you got my interest piqued. I'll check it out, and I'll see if it's right or not. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
Bye.
I can't remember. Right now it's time for the weather, and the weather brought to you by our friends at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. You know, they really care. And they know that hearing loss affects each person differently. And they've got the diagnostic skills and the personalized treatment plans to help you with your hearing loss. I urge you to call them for an appointment at 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology, right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room. Call for an appointment today, 312-0957. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Sunshine for today, rain showers for tonight. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We are expecting mostly sunny skies with a high near 80. It's going to be a little bit breezy out there, not too bad tonight. Scattered rain showers and thunderstorms between about 7 o'clock at night and 1 o'clock in the morning. And we do have a chance of some thunderstorms there as well, mostly cloudy skies. And winds are going to be picking up gusts as high as 30 miles an hour. We are expecting a low of 45 for tomorrow, sunny and breezy, cooling down to about 64. Then by Wednesday, mostly sunny skies and 71. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zebeth Ranch.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Gina. And, of course, our weather brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Please call for an appointment today, 312-0957. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Bill. If I may touch on one thing on Friday, I went around to different stations and see how they was performing, and I found that the teachers was asking as many questions as the children was. And so hopefully, we can teach our teachers a little and also the students.
Well, I'm glad you called back because I want to give you kudos again on a very, very well-coordinated program. I mean, you used the wristwatch and the stopwatch and had everything on time, and the kids learned, and it was just outstanding. But when I looked out into their faces when they were sitting in that amphitheater for our program that we had with Lieutenant Governor, etc., there wasn't one single child, not one, that wasn't paying strict attention.
Zeb, I've had the privilege of going to different schools throughout Mini-Cassia, and every time I spoke, those kids were they're hungry to learn, and they're full of questions, and we've got to step up and fulfill those questions and answers for them.
Absolutely. George, again, kudos to you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. It never ends. It never ends. Now, I'm sure you've probably heard about this, but there are supposedly, and I'm going to use that word supposedly, and I'm going to use the word allegations, that Judge Kavanaugh, Supreme Court Judge Kavanaugh, now the left is coming out with more allegations of misconduct when he was in college. But there is a small problem here. The supposed victim does not recall the incident. What? Yeah. The alleged victim does not recall the alleged incident and does not recall Judge Kavanaugh having anything to do with a supposed incident. But the left, including Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren and Julian Castro and the rest of them, they want Kavanaugh's head on a plate. When does it end? When does it end? And I heard a commentator earlier this morning, and he's right, say that the left is not happy unless they totally destroy this man, Brett Kavanaugh, his family, and his position. And this commentator went on to say, and I agree with him, that how can Brett Kavanaugh and his family go to a school event? How can they go to church or a church event? How can they go to any social event without having some of these kooks and crackpots point their fingers and possibly cause a scene? The Kavanaugh family is living now in a fishbowl that has been created by the liberal left. And every single time they turn around, say something, do something, be a part of something, they are going to be hammered. But now these allegations, which are totally unfounded because the actual so-called victim can't remember the incident, is nothing more than a smear. It's like putting peanut butter on bread to cover things up. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, me again. My thought on this whole deal is there ought to be some legal kickback some way or another for people making false accusations, whether it be politically motivated or false accusations of rape or whatever. There ought to be some stringent, hardcore legal ramifications for them doing this kind of
stuff. I couldn't agree more.
Holy crap. And all it is, like you said, the left wants their way, and they're going to throw a tantrum until they get it.
Yeah, this is destroying, absolutely destroying, not only Judge Brett Kavanaugh and his wife's career and their married life, but it's also destroying their daughters. Can you imagine the embarrassment and the wanting to tuck their chin and walk away that the daughters must feel, whether it's at school or social events, sporting events, whatever the case might be? I agree with you totally that if this charge or allegation, like the others, is found to be completely unsubstantiated, there should be major lawsuits, prison time, whatever, for those that are doing this type of thing. This is ruining people's lives. He's gone. Okay, thanks, Riley. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget, too, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers with a big fall tire sale. Wow! You can save money on, like, the Terramax HT or the Backcountry Touring Tire or any of the set of 4 Select light truck and SUV tires. You can save money money at this big fall tire sale. Get in there and check these tires out today. All the tread designs, all the sizes for your vehicles. You don't want to pass this up. Big money savings at the Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Center's fall tire sale. Best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts and batteries, and the best in service with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Trent on Overland in Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Caller, I got exactly a minute. Go, please.
Zeb, I haven't had a chance to listen, but I hope you can understand. I got a text yesterday of a picture. Remember, there was a very kind of a not a very friendly cartoon called Beavis and Butthead?
Yep.
Remember that?
Yep.
Well, the picture shows a picture of Butthead, and it shows a picture of Beto O'Rourke. It's surprisingly how close they look alike. But this is the difference.
Real fast, Randy. I've only got 30 seconds. Real fast.
Butthead was smarter. Butthead was smarter than Beto.
If you're looking for an argument from me, I'm not going to give it to you.
I got to text you this picture. You're going to freak out. I'll get it over to you. I'm not too hot on this text stuff, but I got a picture you're going to laugh your head off.
All right, buddy. Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Beto O'Rourke is a joke. But unfortunately, not enough people are laughing. Got to take a break. I'll be back in 7. Don't go away. Oh, picking and grinning time on a Monday, September 16th, Zeb at the Ranch, and of course, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with a really big fall tire sale going on right now. Don't forget, stop in and see them today. Along with some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, and of course, helping you get back to being you. And Greystone Crossing Independent Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Right now, this good word for Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this free land. Western Waste Services is landing ahead, always at your disposal.
Western Waste Services, very proud to have them on our program for a long time on Zeb at the Ranch. And, of course, get on the route service once a week. They'll come by your house, pick up your garbage. It's gone. It's out of there. No hassles. Just give them a call, 734-6969. Always at your disposal, Western Waste Services. Want to remind you, too, about our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox offering the iComfort Wi-Fi thermostat that comes from Lennox, and it features remote control access, so you can adjust your home's temperature from anywhere. Check it out today. Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox offering up to $1,600 in rebates on a new system. Make yourself comfy. Call Ramsey Heating and Electric today at 678-0459. Want to remind you, too, that along with everything going on today, our thanks go out to a dear friend, and that's Joel Heward, his family and staff at Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. Wow, they're always there to serve people and always with the best possible support and comfort when there is the passing of a loved one. And again, with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. I urge you to call the number 436-5636, Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert, and Joel Heward also serving you at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. Let's go to the phone line right now. It's Monday, and absolutely one of my favorite days to get the information necessary as to what's going on in world events. Good morning to the president of Americans for Limited Government, my friend Richard Manning. Good morning.
Hey, Zeb, how are you?
Well, I got to be honest with you. There is never a loss of a litany of things for you and I to discuss and talk about, but the one I want to talk about first and foremost this morning, the Democrats calling for Justice Kavanaugh removal over an innuendo and allegation that the victim doesn't even remember. What is going on?
Well, what's going on is pretty simple. They, the New York, for your listeners who are unaware of the facts, the New York Times came out with a article which alleged that Justice Kavanaugh had engaged in sexual misconduct at some point in the past. It was alleged by somebody who was supposedly a third-party observer of this when it supposedly occurred when he was at Yale. So this third-party observer reports it now. Through the New York Times. The New York Times has had to recant a large part of the allegation because they failed to report that the person who was the alleged victim doesn't remember anything of it. None of her friends remember anything about it. And it's, in fact, a completely made-up thing. So the New York Times, the once venerable New York Times, although oftentimes did not agree with them, they were at least considered to be legitimate, is now falling to the level of being less reliable than your high school newspaper. The Democrats, because they haven't, because they're so desperate for something to talk about, besides Elizabeth Warren's demand that we end fracking, it's very clear right now why we have to be energy independent from the Middle East. But Elizabeth Warren's ill-timed call to end fracking last week, and they don't want Beto talking about stealing everybody's guns and confiscating guns. So they're trying to relitigate the Kavanaugh nomination and try to have Kavanaugh deposed. Why are they doing that? Because this is completely guesswork on my part, okay? So let me I'm doing analysis here. This is something I know. What we do know is we know that Ruth Bader Ginsburg has been ill. What we do know is the Democrats' worst nightmare is Ruth Bader Ginsburg being replaced by somebody who Donald Trump picks, who would be pro ending Roe v. Wade. So we know those two things are true. So the only thing I can come up with is the reason they've engaged in this kind of out-of-the-blue attack that's so scurrilous it's almost beyond comprehension, is to send a warning shot to anybody who might be considered for replacing Ruth Bader Ginsburg that they don't want to be in. They don't want to have anything to do with it. They don't want their lives destroyed to be on the Supreme Court because the Democrats will stop at nothing. And this is just a reminder of how low they will go.
You know, you would, and Wheels, we've got a little feedback over there. Ride that gain, please. You would know this firsthand because of the people that you're around every day, but my goodness, how can the Kavanaugh family, caller, stand by, how can the Kavanaugh family withstand all of this pressure and not being able to go to church without wagging tongues and pointing fingers, or a sporting event, a school event? I mean, their lives have been destroyed.
Well, there's an interesting story that came out last week that Brett Kavanaugh's father is actually in part of the same country club as Christine Blasey Ford's father. Strange as that might seem. They run in the same, social circles. And during the actual confirmation, Christine Blasey Ford's father came over to Brett Kavanaugh's father and apologized to him.
Oh, my.
That's now making the rounds pretty, it's actually been printed somewhere. I don't remember who printed it. But it did divide the community of Chevy Chase, which is a wealthy suburban community for D.C., but it did divide the community. But the fact is the nature of the charges were so embarrassing that people who were friends of both were literally going and at apologizing to the Kavanaughs for what was happening to them, including Blasey Ford's father. So that's you get right down to it. Yeah, it's tough, but I hate to put it this way, but it's kind of the company. It's a corporate town, and government's a corporation, and this kind of stuff that happens in the corporate town. And right now, it's gotten so ridiculous that it's almost gone to the point where I think the Kavanaughs are feeling people are basically coming to them and feeling really badly for them, and how far out of control this has gotten.
Yeah.
That won't stop the Democrat machine, destruction machine, from trying to continue on with the path. But I think it is instructive that Christine Blasey Ford's attorney revealed that this really was all about Roe v. Wade, and they were trying to put an asterisk next to his name when it came to Roe v. Wade as being a sexual predator. It's very much similar to what they did to Clarence Thomas when the objective was to disqualify him from being an effective conservative voice who happened to be black, to offset the left, the standard left voices from the black community. And so they needed to discredit him no matter what, and that's why we got Anita Hill. It's the same game. It's the same script. They've just ratcheted it up a notch because we've got the internet and they've got the capacity to move information very rapidly with no capacity to shut it down before it makes it around the world 3 times.
Absolutely. Caller, if you're still there on hold, please, you're on the air. Quickly, go ahead.
Well, maybe they're trying to, keep him where, Kavanaugh and Roberts tend to ride the fence a little, it seems. Maybe they're just, using this as guidance for him, so to speak. But also, you're right about Dave Bader Ginsburg. Hey, let me ask you this. If she is just, short of death, how long can they keep her propped up before anybody knows about it? Can she do rulings from her house with all of her aides and help? I mean, does she have to show up? She might be on her deathbed,
and she has been showing up.
Know it.
So they've been on a break for the summer, which the Supreme Court does. They're scheduled, but they're going to be starting up their schedule again right now. So, But what the Supreme Court schedule is they get done with their June rulings, generally on June 30th, and then they essentially go away for 2 months, and then they come back and they start the process all over again, and it's an intensive work time. You can have your clerks do a lot of the work, but ultimately the justice has to be sitting in the chair. So it's you can do a lot of work from home, but the fact is you do have to show up to work also, and it's I'll give you a little inside baseball. A friend of mine just retired as being a nurse, the head nurse for the Supreme Court, and they spend a lot of time on the 9 justices' health and trying to keep them alive. It's just we've got a whole system set up there to keep them alive. And if somebody was not, if somebody was essentially incapable of doing the job, there'd be no hiding it.
Richard, I don't even know what's going on with the Democrats, and after I watched the debates, if you will, last Thursday night, I am further in the dark. I have studied politics, watched politics, been a part of politics for all of my adult life, and when I heard remarks about just discarding the Second Amendment with Beto O'Rourke, and I heard the lunacy remarks about Medicare for all with Bernie Sanders, and how we're going to excuse all this debt, and every everybody seems to fall in lockstep with this. And then Joe Biden coming out and lying and saying how he was appalled at the Trump administration having cages for the border detention areas when it was actually the Obama administration that put them there. I mean, I really can't be objective when they're a bunch of liars.
Okay, I think we need to put them into different gradations. This is kind of like Dante's levels of hell.
Mm-hmm.
You've got you have Bernie Sanders who believes this stuff. Okay, he thinks Venezuela is a good thing. So wherever you want to put him in the scale, he's abjectly evil and wrong, but he's not lying about what he thinks. Elizabeth Warren, who's taken up the mantle for saying, "Oh, we need to end all hydraulic fracturing in America," really caught a bad break with the Saudi half the Saudi oil capacity being blown up, because now everybody's been reminded just how dependent we would be on that, if not for hydraulic fracturing. And so, if anything, we're now going to get more hydraulic fracturing, and Elizabeth Warren's statement is going to age rather poorly. Beto O'Rourke, desperate for attention, got what he wanted. He got attention by saying, let's confiscate guns. But every Democrat on this stage cringed because that's been their plan, but they're not supposed to say it. And he went up and said it.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's no hiding from it. And he got applause. You can't miss the fact that the audience erupted into applause on it. So there's no hiding from the fact of what they want. And they've said it, and now it's out there. And they no longer be able to play around the edges and say, "Oh, well, slippery slope, that's so silly." So they've gone off the rails there. They've gone off the rails on Medicare for all because they sit there. Now, even Vermont, Bernie Sanders' home state, decided it was too expensive. It was going to double the budget in Vermont in year one. It was going to double the budget. It was basically going to have them. It was going to drive them, make them bankrupt in the first year of their Medicare for All scheme that they were going to do in Vermont. So Vermont said no. If Vermont won't do it because it's too expensive, don't expect the rest of us to. So, but they completely are playing to their base, their narrow group of people who they believe are going to vote in the primary, and it is and oh, by the way, the young, vibrant Democratic Party. The people who are the front runners are Bernie Sanders, who's 77, Elizabeth Warren, who's in her early 70s, and Joe Biden, who's 75, 76, and who doesn't appear to have a great memory for what's happened in his own past. So they're not the young, vibrant party. They're the party of the Marxist party from the 60s. They're the last vestiges of the protesters on the streets of the 1960s trying to finally realize their dream of taking over America.
We have a call coming in, but then I want to talk to you about another one of those so-called nominees, potential nominees. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Quickly, please.
Yes, in your opinion, this congressman from Texas, do you think anything's going to happen to him with what he said about my AR's ready, come and get it?
Which congressman are you referring to?
I can't remember his name, but there was a congressman from Texas.
Yeah, let me jump in and help a little bit on that, if you will, Rick and caller. After the statement was made about Beto saying, well, we're going to come and get your guns, one of the congressmen from the state of Texas said, okay, come and get it, if you think you're man enough, basically.
That was a state senator, I think, if I remember correctly. And, and no, nothing's going to happen because, you know what? Beto said, "Oh, that's a threat," and the guy said, "No, it isn't." And the fact is, if Beto admitted that saying to come get the guns was a threat, imagine what every police officer in America thought when they said, "I'm going to have to go into homes, heavily armed homes, and try to confiscate their guns."
Yeah.
Are you nuts? I'm going to have to go into my neighbor's house and try to confiscate their guns, my friends, my neighbors, my people I went to high school with? Are you nuts? I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So all Beto O'Rourke did in bringing out saying it was a threat was he really highlighted the problem with the idea, and that is this assumption that everybody's going to go and just hand them in. because that's not what happens. And it's not what it's any place they've done this, and at least domestically, they tried even gun buyback programs under the guise that that's going to get guns off the street. It's more typical for people to turn in guns worth $30, collect $100 from a major city, go out and buy a better gun. Okay, that's how gun buyback programs work.
Yeah,
they don't actually work from that perspective, but people monetize their next gun purchase with them. So it's all in all. No, the guy's going to face I don't think he'll face any legal recourse, and it's and it did highlight the problem with Beto's idea, in that Beto apparently doesn't want to be the one to go confiscate them.
That's an obvious statement. One final thought here before we wrap it up. One of the people on that stage that I found to be and find to be the most repulsive, and that's Pete Buttigieg, mayor of South Bend, Indiana. And he made a comment during the debates that basically anybody who supports Trump is supporting racism. And here we go again. So easy for the left to bring up that flag of racism anytime they want to throw it in somebody's face. What are your thoughts about that?
I think America's sick of it. I think they have effectively used the term so much that it no longer has any meaning, and and when you look at it, they've got this huge problem. The problem is African Americans are doing dramatically better than they were before. If Donald Trump is a racist, he's the worst racist in history, because the African American community is doing better. Prominent African Americans are coming out of the woodwork saying, we support Trump. The world's, for the first time, people's world is getting better. It is we see employment at high levels. We see 1.2 million families going from lower middle class to middle class just last 2 years. A turnaround for what we've seen since 1968, when a decline started in terms of middle class households. What we're seeing is a transformation. We're seeing an emphasis on the interstate that's never been done before. When he said Baltimore was a disaster, there are a lot of people in that community who said it is a disaster. We've been ignored and we're tired of it. Finally, somebody's paying attention. So, yeah, Buttigieg can say whatever he wants to say. The fact is, Donald Trump's done more for the black community than Barack Obama ever did, and the black community is beginning to wake up to that fact.
Absolutely. I wish we had more time. Every Monday it goes too quick. President of Americans for Limited Government, my friend Rick Manning. Rick, thank you for your insight. God bless and have a wonderful week. Thank you again.
Have a great week, Zeb.
Thank you, sir. Really, really appreciate that man taking the time to come on our program. Richard Manning, President of Americans for Limited Government, right back in Washington, D.C. Want to remind you there's a big event coming up this weekend on Saturday, September 21st from 10 to 4 at the Purple Shovel Market, an outdoor market with Nature Nursery at 120 East Highway 81 in Burley, right across from the Burley Golf Course. Oh, this is a day for you that enjoy antiques and crafts, food vendors, unique finds. You'd better get in there and check it out. This coming Saturday, September 21st from 10 to 4 at the Nature Nursery at 120 East Highway 81 in Burley. Purple Shovel Market with a great big to-do for antiques and crafts and everything else. Better be there. Want to also give a great big shout out to our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Oh boy, they help. I'm going in there this afternoon, as a matter of fact, 1 o'clock. They've done so much to help me with my legs and the aching and the paining and everything else. They are good. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Number to call, make an appointment. Please do it. Don't put it off. 678-1191. And they are the only business of their type that has that hydrotherapy pool. Oh, my, that does help, and you'll enjoy it. Please give them a call, 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Really, really good people. Want to remind you, too, that there's a lot of fun things going on at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. I got to get a hold of Jeff and tell him to come on up to the house later on this afternoon on his way back home. Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. My goodness, they're having a great big window covering sale. Mm-hmm. On the blinds, the shutters, the roller shades, the ones you pull down and go all the way to the top and everything, and many, many more. 30% off on all the window coverings. And they've got a special low price on floor coverings right now and a closeout on many, many mattresses. You better get in there and check it out at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. 459 Overland in Burley. They are waiting right this minute to serve you at Lee's Furniture. A lot of things going on this week, and tomorrow on the program, I wanted to remind you that we're going to have at 10:06 a fill-in for Dr. History. His name is Lance Dornell from back in Missouri, and he's written a book about Custer and the Little Bighorn in the battlefield, and it's going to be really interesting tomorrow morning at 10:06. Don't forget to our friends at Let's Ride. Oh, get your motor running. Get outside and enjoy the beautiful landscape of the great Idaho outdoors. Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. And they're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 4. I urge you to get in there today. All the 2020 models are coming in, for the side-by-sides, the four-wheelers, etc. And you can save money on the 2019s. Better get in there. They've got all the accessories and a super service department to keep you running at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. And it's true, this is where the fun is sold. Let's go to the phone line right now, and with us is the director of the Center for Economic Freedom at FreedomWorks, and I'd like to introduce and say howdy to John Tamney. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome, John. Before we go any further, I would like you to take a little time and tell my audience basically what in the world is FreedomWorks. Explain that for us.
Well, FreedomWorks is an organization in Washington, D.C. that its purpose is rooted in the basis that politicians respond to incentives like everyone else, that are no different from us in that way. And so, in particular, politicians respond to the will of the voters. That's whom they're trying to convince. So, FreedomWorks, what we do is we have activists around the country who are actively putting on events, calling people, educating them in all ways about the policy direction, about the decisions policymakers are making, what would go against freedom, what would elevate individual freedom. And so we think, and we've found that in doing this, we get better electoral outcomes, we get better politicians, and politicians much more responsive to the wants and needs of voters. And so we educate them, and so we get better politicians as a result.
All I can say, John, is, and I don't mean this to sound disrespectful, but good luck the way things have been lately.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. Certainly there are frustrating aspects of what we see from Washington, but I think also in the big picture, when's it ever been better? Honestly, if you go back to the 1950s, the 1940s, the 1960s, the 1840s, when has life been better? The ability of the American people for the individual to basically pursue a path in life that is most remunerative, that is most elevating of that person's unique skills and intelligence. I think it improves by leaps and bounds with time, and we think a major driver of that is that we gradually moved government out of the way.
I agree with that. Totally agree with that. And when you said in your previous statement, anything that goes against freedom, right there, I'm going to have you elaborate. We're seeing so much that is going against our Constitution and our Bill of Rights and our American values from a very sick, perverted left, and you've got your tasks ahead of you to try to keep things ironed out.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt that that governments exist to grow and that politicians exist to spend, and so it's easy to become pessimistic, I think, because we'll see things that none of us will like. I think a $4 trillion government is an abomination. But I would also, my sense is that you remember the 1970s. In the 1970s, air travel was planned Soviet Union style by the Civil Aeronautics Board. Quite literally, they planned airline routes. In the 1970s, the only way to make a phone call was on a landline phone that you plugged into a wall. And if you wanted to own that phone, it was illegal. You had to rent it from the government's preferred monopoly in AT&T. The myriad ways back then that people quite simply were not free in terms of choice. Back then, there were 3 networks, and there was PBS. So I think it's important to always remind that it's easy to get caught up in what's wrong. But boy, there's no time in the past where I'd say, well, that was a better time to be alive. It gets better and better, and that's one of the most amazing things about this country.
Well, John, I think you will agree with me, though, that all the freedoms that this country and us as a free people have enjoyed right now is at risk, and many people are very naive and not understanding what's going on with the purported close of our First and Second Amendments. I'm very concerned about what's happening under the table and behind closed doors by the left to take away the first 2 amendments that are the most important that we have here in the United States.
Without question, there's every reason to remain vigilant. Governments throughout history of man wanted to reduce the ability of people to protect themselves. Certainly free speech has regularly been under attack. I would just add, I think my right to trade and exchange with whomever I want is also a fundamental right, and I see Republicans trampling on that right now, given their support of tariffs and other things that limit my ability to use my paycheck to get what I want in return for it. So I think it's important to recognize that politicians do have an incentive to exercise greater control, to spend more, to limit things, to basically presume to dole out rights, when in fact, as you know, the Constitution limits government. It does not limit our rights as individuals. So I think it's very important always for us to be ready to pounce. And that's what FreedomWorks is doing. It's educating voters around the country, working on ways to inform them to make sure that they demand more of their politicians.
Now, John, explain this a little bit more about your stand. If you were, all of a sudden this afternoon, appointed and anointed as the leader of who's going to control the trades and the tariffs, who's going to set up the trading programs, etc., what would you do differently than what's currently happening?
What I would do differently is say that you are the American people. As individuals, you're free to trade with whomever you want. It's not my right to say, well, I think the Chinese are a threat, and so I'm going to put a tax on Chinese goods. And I would add that if the Chinese want to damage their people and damage their businesses by putting up protective tariffs, let them. We will do what rich countries do, and we will not have those limits on our people, and we will not put up barriers that shield businesses from the essential pressures of market forces. Those market forces constantly forcing business to improve. We will not do what other less evolved and less prosperous countries do.
When you look at different,
I would say that people are free, and it's not my right to tell you with whom to trade.
Okay, so let's use agriculture as an example and part of our conversation this morning. I am a strong advocate of agriculture and basically the American farmer and rancher that is feeding the world. Right now, they're the ones that are going to be hurt on trade practices, maybe for a short period of time, who knows. How can we solve that problem?
We can get rid of the tariffs. But I would also add that we should stop propping up agriculture. If, in fact, U.S. farmers are feeding the world, if they're so important, why do they need taxpayer dollars to support what they do? And so I would say it cuts both ways. I think one of the reasons farmers haven't made as much noise about these tariffs foisted on China that are causing Americans to get a smaller paycheck, I think they've been quiet because they know that they get a lot of support from Washington. I don't see anywhere in the Constitution that allows for doling out money to farmers. I don't see anything about economic growth in the Constitution. What I see is that it's a document meant to keep us free, and free people tend to prosper. But my view is you're free to succeed, but you're also free to fail. If farmers can't stand on their own 2 feet, I don't think it's your job or the job of the listeners to make up for what they can't do.
Yeah, but I will say this, that a agricultural program, a strong agricultural program in any country is absolutely important above any and everything else, because a country that can't feed itself and create and produce its own food is going to be subservient to another country and fall into a third world status.
I categorically disagree. I don't think there's any evidence, and I think you know that, supporting the claim that you just made. Look, Hong Kong's one of the richest parts of the world. It's not as though it feeds itself. Does New York City feed itself? Does Los Angeles feed itself? No. It just imports from other parts of the world. England at one point in the 19th century was the most powerful economic country on earth. First world in all ways. And frequently at war with much of Europe, yet it continued to import farm goods from those countries at which it was warring with. So, no, I don't think there's any evidence supporting.
No, I disagree with you totally, John, because a country that can't raise its own food and they're relying on the imports.
Outright.
I disagree with you totally on this, because I think agriculture is one of the strongest factors and backbones that a country has, and that's been proven through history. Look at other countries that have fallen.
It's never been proven through history, and if what you were saying is true, why is it that sector in the United States requires taxpayer backstop? So no, you're stating something totally false, and I think you know that. If it's so important, why do taxpayers have to prop it up?
So you honestly believe that this country here in the United States could let our farmers and ranchers basically go broke and out of business due to the crop and commodity prices at the whim and whisk of Wall Street and others, and go broke, and we'd have to import every single food produce that we have in this United States? That would still make us a strong country? I think that's absolutely buffoonish.
Exponentially stronger, because we wouldn't be wasting so many resources propping up what the economy does not need.
You're trying to tell me that we don't need an agricultural program?
Switzerland, would you agree that that's one of the richest countries in the world? Is it agricultural? Is it agriculturally? Is it feeding itself? No.
Yeah, and look at the amount of populace versus 360 million people here in the other countries that are dependent upon United States agriculture for their food and resources. I think it's imbecilic to think that we could do away with our agricultural programs.
The rest of the world. Okay, so that's your point.
What?
Your point is that because you claim that the rest of the world's relying on American farmers, that the American people should subsidize the eating habits of the rest of the world. I reject that. I'm for freedom.
You may be for freedom, but you're talking about idiocy, about losing what we have as the best farming and agricultural program in the world to feed all the people, not only in this country, but those in other countries that are in need. And you're telling me that we could do away with it and go away with more imports and less of an export system? I think you're absolutely buffoonish.
Well, you can feel free to think that, but A, if it's so amazing, why does it require taxpayer support? B, you claim to be for the Constitution, but you sure don't back that up. You want the government to do all sorts of things that it's not empowered to do. Secondly, I'm not saying do away with it. All sorts of farmers would survive and they would thrive without those supports. I'm saying the government shouldn't prop up that which can't stand on its own 2 feet. See, I'm for freedom. I'm for limited government. What you're asking for is for government to pick winners. And you're asking for the American taxpayer to subsidize the eating habits of people around the world. I want a much smaller government than that.
I'm not asking for anything like what you just stated. I'm just saying that you've interrupted me for the last time when I'm going to make a point, John. Don't do that. Now, my point was...
What are you for, then?
My point is a strong agricultural program in any country has proven in history, yes, it has, that without agriculture and strong food production, that country is subservient to whatever the whims are of another country coming in and taking it over, because you can't feed people if you can't get the boats in the harbor. Don't tell me no.
Well, no, I will tell you no, because you're not entitled to your own facts. You're not entitled to make up history. But what you're clearly saying is that you want the American taxpayers to prop up what can't stand on its own. And unless you're going to admit otherwise, just acknowledge that you're for a much larger government than I am.
I am not in favor of large government, never have been, but I don't like the manipulation that government has portrayed and imposed on agriculture, hurt agriculture over the many, many years, and they are the ones that are always up on the world trade markets, etc., that suffer. And I still maintain that without a good agricultural program, you will not have the United States of America as strong as it is today.
Well, that's your right to believe that. I would just tell you that emotion's a very bad debater. And your emotions talking is...
John, it's not emotions, it's fact. And I don't know where you're getting some of your facts from, but you're wrong. A strong agricultural program, and I'll go back and reiterate this, you're interrupting me again, and I don't like that. I did not interrupt you, and I don't expect the rudeness from you. I said a strong agricultural program, strong food production, and ample supplies for its people like we have here in the United States. We are the leader of the world in food production, and others depend on us. That's the way it is.
Okay, and what I would say once again, that based on that, you're saying that the American taxpayer should subsidize the eating habits of the rest of the world and also subsidize a sector of the economy that can't stand on its own. If it's rude for me to say that I disagree with that, I apologize, but I don't think the government, that our federal government and American taxpayers should be harmed in order to prop up a sector that can't...
So you're saying, I want to get this clear before I let you go.
...survive in the free markets, stand on their own without taxpayer support, because many of them could.
So I want to make sure I understand your position before I let you go. You're saying that basically tomorrow, if all the farmers and ranchers in the United States had to file bankruptcy and or sell out because they just couldn't make it financially anymore, with the low commodity prices, low hay prices, wheat prices, whatever the case might be, that would be okay for you, because then you would say that we could always import it cheaper from another country.
Yes, I would be very okay with that, but I
And that, sir, is a retarded outlook on agriculture and food consumption and production.
No, I'm the rude one. I'm the rude one. You're calling me retarded.
I said your viewpoint is, and it is.
It's my time to be on your show, yet I'm the rude one as you call me retarded.
I didn't call you, sir. I said that's a very backward, retarded viewpoint. It is.
Propped up by taxpayers.
John, I can see that we're not going to get along very well this morning on the rest of this conversation, so I'm going to curtail it at this time. I appreciate your taking the time to come on this program, but I will never on this program allow someone to denigrate, I think, our strong farmers and ranchers in this country, and thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Those viewpoints, I just don't think carry any water. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that all of a sudden, if we put our trust and reliance in other countries to sell us food, and all of a sudden those other countries become aware, well, gee, if we don't furnish them food, we can have them in the palm of our hand. Evidently, Mr. Tamney doesn't understand that. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Time for the weather, and the weather brought to you by Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company, providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years, with the best of tax return preparation, tax planning, retirement planning, business consulting, all of this and so much more. Please get a hold of them today, with offices in Burley and Rupert, the best, Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. Here's Gina with the weather.
Sunshine for today, rain showers for tonight. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We are expecting mostly sunny skies with a high near 80. Going to be a little bit breezy out there, not too bad tonight. Scattered rain showers and thunderstorms between about 7 o'clock at night and 1 o'clock in the morning. And we do have a chance of some thunderstorms there as well, mostly cloudy skies. And winds are going to be picking up gusts as high as 30 miles an hour. We are expecting a low of 45 for tomorrow, sunny and breezy, cooling down to about 64. Then by Wednesday, mostly sunny skies and 71. That's what's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Man, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And brought to you this hour by Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. And they've been providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years. Please get a hold of them today in Burley and Rupert. Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Zeb, I kind of got in on the end of that tail end of this, but what we want in this nation is strong American quality product supporting agriculture and this nation. And I kind of wanted to get that across in that last conversation.
Yeah, but Earl, wait a minute. Back up just a minute. I'm never going to hedge on what I said, because I know I'm right and I know Mr. Tamney was wrong. That a country that can't feed itself will become subservient to other nations. Do you agree or not?
Right, I agree thoroughly. And we need to be self-supported with quality American products supporting this nation, not dependent on this quality that's being of imports coming into this nation. We need our nation's back to supporting itself, other than letting other countries bring materials into here.
Absolutely. When we can't support our own people in the production of the safest food in the world, we don't know what the production is over in foreign countries. We don't know about their packaging. We don't know about their cleanliness. We don't know about anything. And I'll tell you what, it'll never meet the standards that we have here. And I'm very concerned about that. And when somebody gets on my program and tells me that we can do away with American agriculture and put it on a boat and ship it in cheaper and better, that's a bunch of hogwash.
Well, this quality of product coming into this country has already proven itself, and we need to get away from it.
That's right. Earl, I appreciate your call. God bless you, man. Thanks. I got another one waiting.
On my hands here, kind of wanting to punch the wall.
Okay. Well, don't punch the wall. It'll break a knuckle. I appreciate it. Thank you much. Caller number 2, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Zeb, I was driving, turned on the radio, and your last guest about put me in the ditch, so I thought while I was stopped, I'd call in.
Well, I'm glad you did. What do you
off base? Kika De La Garza, congressman from Texas, once said that the American farmer is keeping the world going, keeping the world safe, because they're the ones that produce enough food for us and others. And food's been used as a weapon before, and
that's right.
It's been manipulated, and sometimes that's why the subsidies are in place. But just look at the days when we were dependent on foreign oil, what it did to us.
Absolutely.
I'll hang up.
No, don't. I want to ask you a quick question. There are times I get really upset on the program, but when I have somebody tell me that we could do away with American agriculture, totally let it go, farmers and ranchers go work at Kmart, whatever the case might be, that incites me to become very mad, because I know I'm right that a country, any country in the world that can't feed itself is subservient and reliant on other countries, and they can do as they wish. Do you agree or not? Because I know who this is.
I agree. And if you become dependent, totally dependent on somebody else, then they're dictating the terms, not you.
Absolutely. Thank you for your call. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. I was really upset about that call, and I didn't know anything about Mr. Tamney up front. Just read a little bit of the bio and invited him on the program. But I said, and I absolutely will maintain the usage of that word, that his viewpoint was retarded in backing up America into a third world status by not having a strong agricultural program. Wheels, do we have another call?
No, you're all right, sir.
I'm all right. No, I'm not. I'm mad. Thank you. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget Cameron and Siemens Insurance, life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and so much more by people that are really dedicated and responsive to your needs. All you need to do is call their number, 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424, Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Please give them a call today to let them help you. I've got time for a couple of more calls. Give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. You know, people don't understand that this country is under siege. These people that are pouring into our country are being used as weapons by people like George Soros. And if it continues, this country is going to be done in 20, 30 years, maybe even sooner.
I will maintain that whether it's agriculture, whether it's our oil industry, or whether it's our steel mills, I don't care what it is. I want American businesses to thrive and prosper. They are the beacon that's up on that hill for the rest of the world, and I don't want to see us take anything lower or less than first place. That's the way I feel, and I will not weaken.
Yeah, they got so many people in this country are just dying to be controlled. They don't understand what's going to happen to them when the government gets in and takes control of everything. Donald Trump is the other way.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something. I still maintain, and Mr. Tamney was completely wet in his thinking of a country that can't feed itself is subservient to other countries. My dear friend Tony, God bless you, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well.
All right, sir. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Time for one more call. While I'm waiting, I want to tell you that your house can welcome you home with the perfect temperature. The iComfort Wi-Fi thermostat from Lennox features remote control access so you can adjust your home's temperature from anywhere. Don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox offering up to $1,600 in rebates on a new system. So make yourself comfortable. Call Ramsey Heating and Electric today. Excuse me, at 678-0459. Okay, what have we got cooking for the next hour? We've got Doug Giles. Now, Doug was scheduled to be on the program last week, and he had some commitments that he had to honor, and he couldn't be on the air. And we're going to be talking about a book that he has written that now is the Amazon #1 bestseller called Would Jesus Vote for Trump? And then at 10:30 this morning, we're going to talk to E. Calvin Beisner with the Cornwall Alliance, and he's going to be talking about wealth and why so many on the left right now are absolutely hypercritical about anybody having any money or having any wealth. So we're going to talk about that coming up in the next hour. Don't forget Lunch Bunch coming up on the 26th at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner. That's Thursday the 26th. We'll see you there. Right now, the news next from CBS. Good morning, and welcome back, Zeb at the Ranch, and of course with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with a big fall tire sale going on right now. Stop in and see them today. Some of our great advertisers include Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And also Greystone Crossing Independent Senior Living, 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Want to remind you quickly before we go to our next guest that Patterson's at 421 East Main in Burley. Good morning, Curtis and Lorena and the rest of the staff. They are your electronic needs headquarters. Really, I mean, are you thinking about having a home theater system where you can sit back and just enjoy during the fall and winter months everything in your home? Or do you need video surveillance cameras? Or how about car stereos and speakers, complete sound systems, and a list of televisions? They've got them all from Samsung, Sony, Toshiba, LG TVs, everything. Open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6. They really will and can help you. Patterson's at 421 East Main in Burley. Number to call, 678-6997. Let's go to the phone line right now, and I've got to tell you that we were really anxious to have this gentleman on the program a couple of days ago, and there were some conflicts in getting him on the air, but we're so glad that he consented to coming back this morning, and he is the author of the Amazon best #1 seller, Would Jesus Vote for Trump? Good morning, Doug Giles. How are you?
Zeb, what's shaking, big dog?
Well, I'm sitting in my studio just waiting anxiously to find out more about your book, the premise, the concepts, everything else. So tell us about it.
Yeah, so in 2015, for the audience that's not hip to me, I've been in the public eye for a long time. This is my 4th bestseller. And our website, ClashDaily.com, has been crushing it for 7 years, 260 million page views. I'm an outspoken believer, even though the Catholic buddies of mine think that I've got the soul of a heretic, and my evangelical friends think that I have the mouth of a stevedore. I, however, am a real believer. And all my Christian buddies, brother, they were like, how can you stand behind Donald Trump? He could have bumped uglies with Stormy Daniels, Karen McDougal. He's hanging out in Hef's grotto. You know, he's been married 3 times. Then other ones said that, you know, he's going to flip-flop and turn into this radical liberal, you know, once he gets inaugurated, and on and on and on. Every little never-Trumpkin evangelical was just disparaging Trump. And so 2 years into it, in November of last year, it's like I'm going to do a book about how Trump is the believer's best buddy. From implementation of a Judeo-Christian, constitutional-based, liberty-minded worldview. And we launched it. I didn't know how I was going to do. And like you said, it hit #1, man, on Amazon in public affairs in the administration. So I think I struck a nerve, man.
Well, okay, but give us a little bit of, without giving away the gist of the book, chapter and verse, but give us a little gist of your take on the very interesting and enticing title, Would Jesus Vote for Trump? Give us a little bit more.
Yeah, so obviously, you know, Christ being the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, I don't think he's going to vote for any human being sucking air on this terra firma. But again, like I said in my opening salvo, man, is that from a biblical standpoint, Trump's stance on life, Trump's stance on security, Trump's stance on the economy, Trump's stance on immigration, national security, et cetera, it so dovetails with Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, it's ridiculous. Like the Heritage Foundation, they have, I think it's 334 different bullet points for presidents to check off to see if they're originalists that, you know, really dig the Constitution, if they are conservative and liberty-minded indeed. And at this juncture, Reagan was at 49, and Trump's at 64. And but because of Trump's past, and here's one thing that I love to jackhammer the never-Trumpkins evangelical brothers in my book, Would Jesus Vote for Trump? I love, because here's what they say: how can you support a guy who's had that kind of a past? I go, oh, you mean like King David, who committed adultery and murder, And just for giggles, him and his boys cut off 200 Philistines' foreskins. Oh, what else did David do? Let's see. He married 7 women. Now, Zeb, I started doing weed when I was like 12 or 13, so I didn't really do good in math through school. But I believe that's 4 more than Trump is married. And what else did he do? Oh, yeah, he danced naked before the Ark of the Covenant. And that's just David, man. And can you imagine Don Lemon and CNN and Anderson Cooper and all the anti-Brett Kavanaugh clowns, how they would go after David for his dalliances, for his conspiracy to commit murder, dancing nude in front of the Ark of the Covenant? And then these evangelical never-Trumpkins have the moxie and the stupidity to say that God would never use somebody who has a weird past. Every one of us have weird past. Nobody wants a camera on them 24/7 and for that stuff to be uploaded on YouTube, because nobody would like anybody and no one would follow anyone, because we're all sinners, man.
You know as well as I do, Doug, and here I am telling you, and I know you've had this as part of the background of your book, but you know as well as I do, the left and the Democrats, they're only after a couple of items, and that is control of the American populace, their minds of the American populace, and, of course, the power that goes with it. It has nothing to do with the belief system. They just want the power.
Yeah, and the thing that I like about, here's one thing that also, the disingenuous left and the timorous evangelical never-Trumpkins, they're like, well, Donald's policies are good, and yeah, he is doing a great job, and he is doing this thing called keeping his word. However, Trump is mean, and he does mean tweets. It's like, oh my God, have we turned into 12-year-old little girls? This is politics. It's war. It's rough and tumble, man. It's a blood sport. And if you don't like confrontation, if you don't, and what you're, going into this screed, Jeb, the whole power aspect of the left and how they control the media and how they lie nonstop. Look what they did to Kavanaugh over the weekend. Run a story in the New York Times, has crap all to do with truth. They didn't, the girl that they said that he did that dastardly deed to, she hasn't even gone on record. Her friends denied that it ever happened, but they run it anyway, and they destroy people's lives. And what we've seen in Trump, man, from the whole thing is like, he's just too mean. He calls fake news, calls Rosie a pig. He tweets mean things. Listen, if you got on the wrong side of business with Jesus, if you're a bad politician or a Pharisee or some dunderhead disciple who wasn't getting it, he would lay into you and he'd do it in public. He called this one lady, a Syrophoenician migrant woman whose daughter is acting like Miley virus, called her a dog. He said, it's not right to give the children's bread to dogs. And she didn't take up a hashtag movement and join the Me Too group and start campaigning against Jesus to get him fired from being the Son of God. What she did, she goes, yeah, but even dogs eat crumbs that fall from the master's table. And he goes, boom, lady, your daughter's healed, and welcome to the fold.
We've got a caller. I'm going to ask the caller to stay on hold just for a second, Doug. And let me ask you this. Are we, when you did the study for this book and put it all together, compiled the way you wanted this book to come across, are we, in your opinion, at a point of no return with politicians, partisan politics, left and right? Are we at a point that can never be bridged?
No, and I think Trump just showed everybody how to do it, All these people that that were gobsmacked when he came down the golden escalator on June 16, 2015, he's been propping up their haggard careers for the last 4 decades, both on the left and the right, to get, construction work done in New York and down in Miami and around the world. He showed people that if you make promises, if you be bold, if you call a spade, crap is crap, and you're an equal opportunity of both left and right, then you can bring a fresh breeze inside that fetid swamp. And, you look at the guys like Mitch McConnell, man. Where did that come from? He was part and parcel of this creepy crony capitalism and lobby money, and you got Lindsey Graham and John McCain crossing over the aisle to legislate horrid stuff. And all of a sudden, when Trump comes in there and he starts stomping skulls, these people grow a spine and some testicular fortitude, and they stop acting like lifetime politicians, and they get to where they're serving us because they are our employees.
Absolutely.
We the people.
Absolutely. Caller, go ahead with your question for Doug Giles, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, if all of us were under the kind of scrutiny he was under, we probably would have went under a long time ago. Because I'm not perfect, but I spent my life trying to do the right thing, but still, I mean, whether or not they make it up or not, think about really, Trump might be as clean as you could get in this situation. These people that attack him, if their backgrounds were exposed, we wouldn't be shocked, but maybe they would be done. They say he has a prayer meeting every morning, and he's becoming extremely spiritual, and he knows that Christ is his Savior, but it's not something he walks around, talking about. He knows how important it is to have the guidance of God in this situation, and the things that he has done for us that nobody gives him credit for, and use for Hispanics and blacks, and they call him racist. It's such a crock. What scares me is who believes the people that lie about him.
Doug, respond to the caller, please.
Yeah, no, it's. I agree with that epic little rant that he just said. Again, if he didn't have the golden comb over, if he wasn't Orange Man bad, if he wasn't named Donald Trump, and you just throw in some other name, again, the left's always going to do left stupid stuff. The thing that I find close to unforgivable is the way that evangelicals or Catholics who say they love traditional values, who say they love our original intent and our founding documents, they can't get behind this president. Like the caller said, he is foursquare doing exactly what he promised. Our economy is screaming. Black unemployment rate, it's the lowest ever in the history of our country. Hispanic women, their unemployment rates just low, ebbing down. Special needs people, if you got Down syndrome and you want to be a stand-up comic, guess what? Today's your day, man. And yet these Protestants and Catholics and their little anti-Trump animus, because of stupid stuff like his tweets, or he calls CNN fake news, or he counterpunches when some moron or the left on the left or the right comes after him or his family, and they're going to completely discount all of his work because he's combatant. See, this is another thing that I don't like. I don't like how everybody's become, especially men, effeminized. If we see Trump being bold, if we see him being forthright, if we see him talking smack to smack talkers, we're like, he shouldn't do that. That's not statesmanlike. Well, Jesus did it, and you want to see some of the most rough, tough maledictions that ever came forth from his sacred head. Tool on over to Matthew 23 and look at the imprecations that he pronounced upon the Pharisees, who became implacable, and he cursed them to their face. And if you read it in the Greek, I had 3 years of Greek. It's worse than anything that Trump's ever said to anybody that I've ever heard, and we follow him very closely on ClashDaily.com.
Doug, let me ask you this question, and I'm sure you've been asked this before with your viewpoint and also on behalf of your book. But when you look, like last Thursday's a good example at the Democratic debates, of what's happening in this country and how far radical the left is becoming through the Democratic Party, is there one particular candidate that you fear the most of the Democrats?
No, I love them all, man. I would cheer on any of them, to take on Trump. I don't fear any of those folks. I think, the younger ones, I'd say, I think Bernie's the only one who's a dyed-in-the-wool socialist that's on that stage. I think he really believes what he believes, and I think he would have ran against Trump last year if Hillary wouldn't have stolen the election from him. The other ones, they're just, they're echoes. They're just reflections. Everybody's trying to outdo the other one. They don't have gravitas, and I think Trump's going to stomp them like whoever becomes their nominee. I think he's going to stomp them like a narc at a biker party. And I'm saving up money right now for popcorn and beer for those epic debates, because it's going to be a fun time, man, because he's going to mop the floor with those morons.
All right, now being a #1 Amazon bestseller with the title "Would Jesus Vote for Trump?", when people get the book, read the book, and close the cover on the last page, what is it you want people to take away from your book and remember?
I want them to think. Nobody's into thinking anymore. Everybody's reactionary. And, my book principally is an apologetic for not being apologetic, for being a Trump supporter. However, this is just my read. It's my opinion. We take Trump's policies and his person, and we run them through the sieve primarily of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And this is what our research has showed. It looks pretty tight, man. He's governing. If the Christian takes seriously the biblical worldview, then Trump's governance is pretty darn spot on, man, from the implementation of, the Christian worldview. So it's a big book. It's 400 pages. It's not, light summer beach reading. And anybody who thinks that we're not taking these 25 different topics seriously, they're nuttier than a squirrel turd. And if they would like to, argue with the book, then, man, you bring your research, because it's some deep waters.
Last thought, I wanted to ask you, too, and I had it on my cheat sheet here to ask you this morning, when we see members of Congress like the Squad with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, and others that are very disrupting and very dissenting against the United States, I'm afraid we're going to see many more of that type and of that ilk running for positions in our Congress and our Senate. What are your thoughts about that?
Just like the 24 clowns that are running for president, I think the Squad is such a lovely gift to America, because they epitomize how ridiculous democratic socialism is. And you add to that equation, the collapse of the Venezuelan economy that embraced wholeheartedly socialism. And then you see what's going on in Hong Kong with the revolution that's going down. I think that the more that these morons talk, Zeb, the better it is. So I encourage them to keep talking about socialism. I encourage them to keep talking about theft or wealth redistribution. I encourage them to keep talking about banning cows, meat, and planes, because the more that those four yodel, the more people I don't really know what it means to be a Republican, but I know that stuff's nuttier than a squirrel turd. So me and my family, we're going to vote for Trump next election.
All right, tell us, everybody in my audience, where, besides Amazon, can they get a copy of your book?
Yeah, it's anywhere books are sold online, major bookstores, but Amazon is so easy, man. You could pick your nose, watch Netflix, and go over to Amazon, click your mouse, melt your plastic, and get either a paperback, a Kindle, or the audiobook. Zeb, the audiobook's a scream, man. It is some funny stuff. So, they're all over there, and thanks for listening, and thanks for having me on.
Well, just one other thing I wanted to ask you about. I'm sure that since you wrote this book, by the way, when did you finalize the last chapter of this book? How long has it been in print?
So we submitted it on April Fool's Day, which I thought was apropos, and I think it's been out for like a month.
Okay, so with all that being said and all the thoughts in that book, and now what's happening with new revelations in politics, etc., are there plans for book number 2?
Only if Donald Jr. runs.
All right. Well, listen, Doug Giles, I really appreciate your calling back and letting me know that you could come back on the program this week. I appreciate it. Good luck with your book, Would Jesus Vote for Trump? Thank you for being on the show this morning.
Yeah, right on. Stay ready.
All right. Thank you. Different individual, but by golly, he tells it like it is, and I've got a lot of respect for that. And Doug Giles and his book, Would Jesus Vote for Trump? Calls are welcome. I've got time for one call before I've got a break at the bottom of the hour, and I also want to tell you a little bit about our friends at Greystone Crossing. I went over there with my lovely bride a couple of weeks ago when they had that open house on Thursday. I believe it was August 22nd. And we had a tour of the facility so that I could honestly tell you more about it. It was outstanding, beautiful, and so handy for seniors. Greystone Crossing, Independent Senior Living on 21st Street. That's Alfresco Road, just 1 mile east of Walmart. Absolutely. 3 meals a day, plus snacks, plus housekeeping and local transportation. I urge you to call Kelly and Matt Wiggins at 650-4979. That number again, 650-4979, and they'll show you all around Greystone Crossing, Independent Senior Living. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, yesterday in that game between Green Bay and Minnesota, in the second half, don't take offense to this, but the best player on the team may have been Kirk Cousins for the Green Bay Packers, because if he wasn't the dumbest person on earth, I don't know who was. Couldn't believe it. I know you're a Packers fan. I'm a Vikings fan. And, these things are tight. But, man, what a loser.
Well, I will say this. You made the statement that you're a Vikings fan, and I just, as a matter of fact, this morning have received a pamphlet that was sent to me from another friend of mine in Wisconsin, and they're opening therapy sessions for people that are Viking fans.
Well, considering we spent $84 million on him, and he, couldn't, he wants to be the hero. Well, all he needed to do was just hand it off to Cook or Madison, and, it may have been a different story. But, no, not Kirk Cousins. $84 million. Think about that. Guaranteed.
Well, I want to go to one story, though. I want to go to one story quickly with you in pro football that I think is disgusting and very distasteful. And I think the individual involved is all of those words combined. And that's Antonio Brown, after what he did to the Pittsburgh Steelers, then on to the Oakland Raiders, then on to the New England Patriots. Millions and millions of dollars, and the guy's nothing more than a street punk.
Oh yeah, and he's probably getting, going to get some sort of endorsement if he already hasn't. I don't keep up with him. Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? When you got people out there who love the game, who do it for the right reasons. That's the reason college football is so enjoyable. And I like pro football because I root for a team. But there's times when I just have to, yesterday when it was 21-0, I just shut it off, went outside, and said, I got to go do something else. I ain't watching this.
I agree with you. No, I agree with you. And kudos so far in the season to our Boise State Broncos. They're playing not their best football, but they're still winning.
Well, that defense, think about it. Nobody scored a point in the second half. Some of them didn't even get a first down in the second half. And, now Air Force is coming to town, and they are the scrappiest boys on the block.
Going to be a good game.
We better watch out.
Better watch out is the bywords, because I'll guarantee you the cadets are tough. Hey, listen, I got to run, Randy. God bless you. Thank you so much. Right now, we're getting ready to send it back over to our main studio. I want to remind you again, next Thursday, not this Thursday, next Thursday, the 26th, will be Lunch Bunch at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner, and we hope to see you there. Right now, we're going to send it back over to Wheels. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Oh, my goodness sakes. I want to remind you quickly about our friends Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox, and you can let your house welcome you home with the perfect temperature. The iComfort Wi-Fi thermostat from Lennox features remote control access, so you can adjust your home's temperature from anywhere. Holy smokes. You better get a hold of Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox. They're offering up to $1,600 in rebates on a new system. So keep comfy. Call Ramsey Heating and Electric today at 678-0459 or visit them online at ramseysonline.com. There's a gentleman coming up next on the program that I really, really enjoy having on the air, and he represents the Cornwall Alliance, and I'm going to have him tell everybody what that is and what they do. He is the founder and national spokesman for the Cornwall Alliance, and he's a good friend of this program, E. Calvin Beisner. Sir, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. Doing great. Hope you are, too. And thanks for the opportunity.
Well, it's my pleasure to have you on this program.
It's a network of approaching 70 scholars, all evangelical Christians, natural scientists, economists, policy wonks, theologians, ministry leaders, who are committed to a threefold mission of educating the public and policymakers about biblical earth stewardship, that is, fulfilling the dominion mandate that God gave us in Genesis 1:28 to be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it and have dominion over it by enhancing the fruitfulness, the beauty, and the safety of the earth to the glory of God and the benefit of our neighbors. So that's the first part. Second part is economic development for the very poor. What are the conditions that enable whole societies to rise and stay out of poverty? And the third part is the gospel of Jesus Christ, how people like you and me can be reconciled to the holy God by grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone, because of what he did on the cross to pay for our sins, and his resurrection showing that his sacrifice was fully accepted to atone for us. So we try to put all of those three things together because we recognize that as people are reconciled to God and begin to understand his world the way he designed it, we make better use of it and are better stewards of it.
Absolutely, and very well stated. You sent me a short article, a couple of pages long, and it was called A Sad Tale of a Wealthy Millennial's Moral Confusion. And I got to tell you, I was fascinated by this because today, and let's start with the present. Today we are seeing more condemnation and more refusal to honor or respect people that have worked hard all their lives and maybe have gained wealth and a large company or whatever the case might be. But the left is denigrating them on a daily basis, and you basically touch on this in your article. Explain it if you would, please.
Well, the article interacts with another article by a fellow named Roberts, who is a millennial who inherited a fairly large sum of money from his parents. And as he began interacting with a lot of people who had far less than he has, he started feeling, actually, sadly to say, guilty for having inherited that money, especially when he discovered that a fair amount of it came from his parents' and his grandparents' investments in oil, in the defense industry, and to some extent as well in banking. And he just sees problems with those three different sorts of economic activity, business activity. And so he began to embrace the notion that there is something wrong with an economic order that allows some individuals to amass great wealth while other people have very little. And, you know, as I read Adam Roberts' article, I thought to myself, here's a guy who displays a real a heart of compassion toward those who lack. And yet he doesn't seem to understand that there's nothing morally wrong with having wealth so long as one has obtained it in honest ways. And that, in fact, if you don't have some people obtaining wealth, you don't have the capital necessary to employ other people to just make ends meet. And so it was a rather sad article to write, and so I just wanted to interact with it a bit and and suggest to many millennials, many of whom have embraced a sort of a socialist outlook on life, that the assumptions are not necessarily true.
Calvin, when you used the term just a moment ago, those who lack, I believe, and please tell me if you think I'm wrong, I've got big shoulders, I believe that even and almost applicable to everyone, we have the ability with the assets that God has given us to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps and take personal responsibility and change and alter our lives, whether it's through better employment, better education, whatever the case might be. I don't think those who lack is a fair statement, because we all have the chance to change and try to be better.
Yeah, that is certainly the case for the vast majority. Of course, you and I understand that there are some people who are either mentally or physically so handicapped that it is very, very difficult, if not impossible, for them to support themselves. And, their families, their churches, their near neighbors, obviously, we want people close to them to take care of people like that. But for the vast majority of people, if they are willing to work and work hard and to learn carefully, they can support themselves. Not everybody's going to be a billionaire. Not everybody's going to be a millionaire. But the vast majority of us can obtain what is necessary for a healthy and long and happy life. And indeed, many studies have shown that happiness does not depend to any significant degree on one's level of economic achievement. Happiness ultimately depends on very different things. Jesus tells us that happy are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God. Happy are the peacemakers, and so on. So we need to be sure that our measure of happiness is where it ought to be, not just on physical possessions.
Well, absolutely. Material wealth is not what we should be striving for. But then on the other side of that coin, and I really want to emphasize this point, is that if you work hard and you are successful and you do receive in remuneration not only certain things as far as wealth or material things, that's not to be condemned by certain groups like the left in this country today and being told that you don't deserve it and that you should give it away.
Absolutely, and certainly Jesus thought just the way you just spoke. In his parables of the talents and the minas, he has the people given certain amounts of money to steward, and one of them brings a major increase, and he's given a big reward for that. Another brings a smaller increase, he's given a smaller reward. Another says to the master who had invested the money, he says, I knew you to be a hard man, gathering where you did not sow. And so I just hid your money in the ground. Here it is back to you unchanged. And the master judged him a wicked servant and took the 1 talent or the 1 mina away from him and gave it to the one who already had the most. And in Jesus' parable about this, the people around them say, oh, but Master, this one already has 10. And the Master says, yes. And the one who has much will be given more. Why? Because he has much, because he showed himself responsible with much.
Yes.
When we are responsible stewards of what God puts into our hands, God entrusts more to us. Now, this is the normal way of life in God's world, the way God designed it. There are, of course, exceptions, like as we read in the book of Job. But the exceptions are exceptions; they're not the norm. And we need to remember to make our plans for life according to the norm, not according to the exception.
Yeah, but Calvin, when you look at, after you had written this piece, when you look at what's happening today with and I'm going to be very blunt, the Democratic Party and these presidential hopefuls that are absolutely out in condemnation against anything as far as our value system and our work ethic, etc. And we've got these kids, the millennials and others that basically have a tin cup and a handout, waiting for free education, waiting for free health care, waiting for this and that and the other thing, all free. That's not the way life was intended to be, in my opinion. We all should be responsible, all have a work ethic, and try to be the best we can be with the talent that God gave us.
Absolutely right. And of course, it's not only not the way life is intended to be, it's also not the way life really is. There is no such thing as a free lunch. There is no such thing as free college. There is no such thing as free anything. It may be free to the recipient, but somebody has to have borne the costs of producing it and getting it to the recipient. If we live as if things just come to us freely, we're not going to live very successfully, and we're going to find ourselves in a society that will have less and less available with which to bless us. A truly prosperous society depends on private property rights, on entrepreneurship, on free trade, on limited government, on the rule of law, and those things are all the opposite of the socialist mindset that has come to dominate so much of thinking on the leftward end of the political spectrum.
Okay, now that being said, on a scale of 1 to 10 for worrying about where we are politically and what might happen in this next election, I mean, my goodness, where do you stand on this? I'm worried sick that right now the average voter, let's say, is out there listening to this garbage about, well, we're going to forgive this debt, we're going to forgive these medical bills, we're going to give everybody Medicare, we're going to let all this be free for students to get an education. They're buying into this, and I don't think that there's enough time, if you will, to stop this thought and really create to the American public the truth. Nobody is really listening to the truth. They're listening to these Democrats at these various debates, and they're buying into this foolishness.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of that out there, and it is, I think, a cause for real concern. Of course, if we want to see where that leads, just look at the history of socialism around the world in the 20th century. Look at the failed nations over and over again. For that matter, look at it right now in Venezuela, which used to be the most prosperous country in Latin America, and is now just in total collapse, with people having great difficulty even scraping enough together for the daily food that they need. That's where socialism leads. And unfortunately, too many people don't have the historical awareness to recognize that. So, yeah, we have a real challenge in front of us to educate the American public at all ages about the real risks of moving in a socialist direction. And that certainly seems to be the direction that so many younger Americans are headed.
You know, one thing that really bothers me, Calvin...
Cornwall Alliance is working.
Absolutely. One thing that really worries me is our education system, K through university, if you will, and the denigrating thought that American farmers and ranchers, food production is evil, and that energy production is evil, et cetera, right on down the line. We are utilizing and using the resources that God gave us as the richest country in the world. We're not abusing, we are using, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and I've said this on your program before, Zeb. Who in his right mind ever thought it made any sense whatsoever to entrust to the government the shaping of the minds by whose consent it's supposed to be governed? When we have state-run schools educating our people, the notion of popular consent, the notion of the consent of the governed, becomes completely empty. If we want to maintain freedoms, if we want to maintain a just and ordered liberty among ourselves, We need to escape the clutches of government-run education, and that means private schools and homeschooling. And that's certainly something that Christians ought to take very seriously, because the Bible clearly puts in parents' hands the responsibility for educating their children. Again, this sort of thing is why Cornwall Alliance exists and has so many educational materials on our website at cornwallalliance.org.
Calvin, you are always welcome here. I find you to be a breath of fresh air when I have you on the program. E. Calvin Beisner with the cornwallalliance.org. Thank you for being on the program, and come back soon.
Thank you, Zeb. Be glad to do it.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. This article that he had written is absolutely excellent, and very good analogies in there. A sad tale of a wealthy millennial's moral confusion, and it really plays into what's happening here in the United States politically today. Calvin Beisner, a good friend of this program. Right now, we're going to have a weather forecast, and then I'm going to open it up and have you call me with comments about today's program or anything in the news right after we get the weather, sponsored by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. The telephone number to call, 324-7657, or you can go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com. All the delicious meats. Oh, my. Like I said last week, I've got to call Don and say, hey, Don, come on over, be on the program, but also bring some brats with you, would you? Oh, my goodness, they're delicious. Check it out. Scarrows Meats in Jerome. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Sunshine for today, rain showers for tonight. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We are expecting mostly sunny skies with a high near 80. It's going to be a little bit breezy out there, not too bad tonight. Scattered rain showers and thunderstorms between about 7 o'clock at night and 1 o'clock in the morning. And we do have a chance of some thunderstorms there as well, mostly cloudy skies. And winds are going to be picking up gusts as high as 30 miles an hour. We are expecting a low of 45 for tomorrow, sunny and breezy, cooling down to about 64. Then by Wednesday, mostly sunny skies and 71. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you very much, Gina. I appreciate your being on the show with the weather this morning. Outstanding as always, and it's brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Don Scarrow and his crew, absolutely delicious meats. And it's really, really true. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Scarrows Meats. All right, your turn. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And I'd love to hear what you have to say about what happened. You know, by the way, did you ever stop and think about this? Who in their right mind with the Democratic Party would have scheduled a major debate of the 10 or 11 candidates that are really the highest, if you will, in the polls on Thursday Night Football? I thought about that last week, and I just wondered, surely they must have taken a look at the scheduling. Surely they must have known that it was in the new season of the NFL, and it was going to take away viewership, which it did. Big time. But doesn't that show you that maybe some of the powers that be of the Democratic Party, well, they ain't real smart, Homer, because you don't go up against a major sporting event in this country when you're talking about a political event. It's been tried and failed in the past, and it did nobody any good with the debates last Thursday. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. This Jorge Ramos, or whatever they call him?
Jorge Ramos, yes.
He was disgusting on this, as a commentator or whatever you want to call him. He had an agenda, and it didn't fit in at all.
Well, Jorge Ramos, Keith, let me just interject something right there, and pardon me for interrupting you, but you're spot on. How and why ABC Network hired Ramos to come on there and be one of the interviewers and questioners on that debate is beyond me. He has an agenda of open borders, no borders. Anybody can come in here to the United States. This man is very vindictive against any politician or any organization that wants to stand up and say we've got to protect our borders. I find him to be despicable, and I couldn't agree with you more.
And here is the deal. When he spoke, asked these people, they had to agree with him, because if they didn't, then they're an outcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and it was just wrong.
Oh, I'm glad you perceived and caught and picked up on that, because Jorge Ramos is nothing more than a man that is absolutely against the policies and the laws and the Constitution of the United States, and I find him despicable. That's about all I can say.
You pretty well covered it.
Okay. Thank you very much, my friend.
Okay.
God bless. Thank you. Jorge Ramos, I've seen him way too many times on television regardless of the network. He has a vendetta against our laws, against our border system, and I don't like the man. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, Zeb, football is an American sport, originated here. It's nothing's like it anywhere else. And like a gentleman said the other day, he said, the social fabric of America identifies with football, because men are manly and playing manly sports. He says if you were playing the Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers and it was a flag football game, he says nobody would show up. It would be laughed. It would be a joke. See, if it wasn't for the reality of it all and the struggle, and we identify with it, and it's in our heart and soul. People show up, and when my team loses, it's hard on me. And you say, well, what's wrong with you? It's a game. No, it's about life. It's about life, and that's the way it is. And when you prevail, because you've worked harder than the other guy, that's what America is. We outwork the other dude, and we prevail.
Absolutely. I would say one thing, and Wheels, we got a little feedback here real quick. I would say one thing. If Randy, the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears would ever consent to a flag football game, what you would have at the end of the fourth quarter is one flag left, and that would be over all the dead bodies laying on the field.
Well, it just wouldn't work. You know as well as I do, it's just Americana.
That's right.
We identify with it, and you win and lose. You just don't all root for the, in other words, we just root for the New England Patriots every year because, they're going to win. No, we stick with our team come hell or high water, and it is what it is, and you get frustrated, but every year you say, well, maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the year. It's what we are as Americans, and the liberals hate it.
No, I know. I said the same thing for years about the Chicago Cubs, and fortunately, in my lifetime, finally, they won the World Series. I got to run, Randy. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you. All right, buddy. Don't forget our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations, serving you with the best, underline that word, best, the best in tires for your driving needs. That's right, whether you've got a pickup SUV or a car, horse trailer, boat trailer, whatever the case might be. They're having a big fall tire sale right now. You can save money, so you better get in there and check it out today. You going hunting? Well, my goodness, make sure you've got good tires to get you up there and back home. Stop in today and check out the brakes. They got outstanding brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, all of this at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. With Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Pauline in Twin Falls, and Trent on Overland in Burley. Yep, the best, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. Got to go. We're going to get out of here for today. Got a lot of things to get done, and we'll be back here tomorrow morning at 8:06. We always say at the end of this program, the way things were, the way things ought to be, but especially 4 words come to mind when we wrap things up on this show daily on Zeb at the Ranch. In God we trust. See you tomorrow morning at 8:06.